Hello, Austin here with the limited run games copy of Night in the Woods.
It's Brimstone.
Yeah, right, Brimstone.
So late last year, when pre-orders were open for this Night in the Woods limited edition release, it was one of those things I was obligated to buy. I had to buy it. So I put the pre-order in, and about 9 months later, after a very, very long wait, the game is here for the perfect fall season fitting the game. I'll have to apologize for the poor lighting. I've tried several angles, but this box is so damn bright. It's like stark white and pink that under any angle, the sun just seems to reflect off of it and just beam. So it is what it is. If this is too bright to look at the little May card here. I said I was obligated to buy this game. I usually stay away from these big video game collector's editions. They usually come with statues and cards and a bunch of junk that goes honestly down in price and pretty worthless by the time the collector's edition is come and gone. But with Night in the Woods, we have a special case because this game is very, very special to me. Let me ask you a question, dear viewer. Do you have a piece of media that played a very important role in your life that you associate with a certain time or place? For instance, I talk about Shrek a lot on this channel because I liked Shrek as a really young kid, and to me, Shrek makes me think of those innocent days of childhood youth. I mean really young, before I even went to school, when I was just a wee lad in Long Beach, California, with not a worry in the world but playing with my Shrek toys. Some things I don't like to think of because they make me think of bad and rough times. And Night in the Woods is a very special game because it came to me at a point in my life where I needed it most. About 5 or 6 years ago, depending on when you're watching this video, at one of, I would say, the darkest points in my life. I just got out of high school, or technically this was a month before graduation, because I remember doodling Night in the Woods at my notebook in high school, and I distinctly remember that being my last high school memory before I graduated. I was recreating May's journal from this game for me to have as a prop. I had a bit of an obsession, a hyper-fixation, if you will, on Night in the Woods. The story behind this game is honestly really interesting. I was reading a lot of video game magazines at the time, like actual print Game Informer magazines. I didn't have a cell phone yet. I only had a flip phone up until very recently. I just didn't have a smartphone throughout high school, so I would buy Game Informer magazine and read it. And there were a lot of people in Game Informer magazine raving about this upcoming indie game called Night in the Woods. Everyone insisted that it was something special and that it would be essentially the next Undertale, if you would. That this game was really, really going to be something great. So I knew of the game, and it appealed to me because I liked these little animal characters. Though at the time, I was not furry. I was very anti-furry. And if you had asked me, I would insist at the time that I was not a furry. Look how far we have come. I mean, look at this channel, right? But Night in the Woods came to me at a very dark point in my life. So I played through Night in the Woods, and I almost put the game down about 2 hours through because it scared me. Really, it scared me. This game freaked me out. And I didn't know why, but I liked it. I liked how much it scared me. So I just kept playing and playing and playing. And I played through Night in the Woods with what fans would call the B version. So there's a kind of a Gregg version and a B version, or an A plot and a B plot, if you want to take B's name literally. You can play through the game 2 different ways. You can play through this game, and it is a point-and-click type game with a little bit of platforming. So it's kind of just like a visual storyline that you uncover. And depending on what lines of dialogue you select and where you move your character, you can either become friends with the fox here or the alligator. And each one has a different storyline that unfolds into a mystery. And the plot is that May Borowski, the cat here, moves back to her hometown after dropping out of college and doesn't know what to do with her life. And I connected with this character of May like I never have with a fictional character. I really, really understood May Borowski and her plight to find meaning in the world. She is such a fallible, mistakable character. You know, she is not the strongest female lead because she makes a lot of dumb decisions that when she makes those decisions, you the player are like, that was a dumb thing to do. But then you realize you've been in that situation before, and you've made a decision as equally as dumb before. When May comes back and moves in with her parents in a small town in Pennsylvania, she kind of uncovers a great big supernatural mystery in that town. A good way to summarize Night in the Woods to someone that has no clue what this is and without giving too much away, it's got elements of Gravity Falls, Goonies, kind of the small town kids on bikes fighting a monster type of vibe. Except in Night in the Woods, they're not kids, they're all 19 and 20-year-olds that are having trouble moving into adulthood. And that was something that really spoke to me when I played the game, is I wasn't sure how to move out of high school. My brain, how I operate, because if you don't know, I have autism. I got Asperger's syndrome, so my brain kind of works in this way where I work on a set schedule and things are set. And I did not comprehend the fact that I was going to be moving into adulthood and that I would not be waking up and going to school every day and living with those dreaded, horrible teachers. Oh my god. Some of these teachers I had were just awful. Not you, Mr. C. I forever love you, Mr. C, but the rest of them, like, to even look back as an adult and think that I woke up every day and dealt with those people. How did I do it? Seriously, how did I do it? Sheer willpower, that's how. But in this game, Mae Borowski, our lead, she's also autistic and has Asperger's syndrome. Pretty much a lot of the characters are written with that in mind, that they have forms of autism. It's also hinted at that Mae Borowski is of Jewish heritage, like I am. That last name, Borowski. Some of the themes, I could definitely see that Mae is coming from a northeastern, tight-knit Jewish family, which is where my family comes from. My great-grandparents came from New York. They immigrated from Germany to escape a labor camp. Yeah, seriously, my great-grandparents were badasses. They survived some pretty wicked and gnarly stuff to get here. But Mae was just a character that I saw myself in. I really did. Even though she's a female character, she's a girl, and I fully related to her. She's kind of a different type of furry female character. Often when I talk about, you know, furry females on this channel, I talk about their curves and how, their eyelashes and how sexy they are, you know? Crystal from Star Fox, my first furry love, Sally Acorn. But Mae is not that. Honestly, there's nothing sexy about Night in the Woods. It's like the sexual equivalent of cornflakes. It's not that type of furry game at all. It's instead a game about, you know, finding meaning, learning your place in the world, living with disability. Without giving the end of the game away, Mae has more than just autism. She has a significant cognitive problem that she learns about near the end of the game. And I just thought the way the game treated that, and the way they talked about it, was like, unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Here we have characters with real problems. They're not shamed or judged for it. They're tight-knit friends, and they work through it together. The game doesn't even really have a happy ending. It kind of ends on a downer, but, you know, it's implied that because of how strong these characters are and the friendships they form, and their connections to family, that they'll get through it. It's a bizarre, bizarre game. It ended up being the game I played most on my Nintendo Switch, if you'd believe that. I played my Nintendo Switch version of Night in the Woods for over 100 hours. I think I played through the main quest, I would say about 12 times. The Woods, as a video game in the public's eye, went through a story even crazier than my own. There's a lot about Night in the Woods I haven't talked about yet, and if you hold this name, if you know this game, yeah, there's a lot surrounding it. So, I bought Night in the Woods when it came out, in early 2018 for the Nintendo Switch, and I experienced the game parallel to my own life, like I said. So to me, the game already represented a big moment. It wasn't just another indie game. It wasn't even a good game like Grim Fandango. It was the game. Night in the Woods would be the game that would go on to define my adulthood. I significantly believe this game, 6 years later, 5 years later, has defined who I am as a person. Its aesthetics, its look, its style, its music. This is even the game that led me to openly become furry and not shy away from this love of anthropomorphics. This was the game that did it. Weirdly enough, the depressing indie game that has nothing sexy about it at all is what prompted me as a person to gain a sense of individuality and be true to myself. May and all her friends taught me to be myself, because you only live on this world once, and what's the slogan of Night in the Woods? At the end of everything, hold on to anything. It's a message about how, if things seem dark, hold on to what you have left, your friends, your family, and your passions and love. And that spoke to me. I even kept an anxiety journal, like May did. Throughout the game, how you kind of track progress is May's anxiety journal, where she doodles down how she feels about her life. That was something I did throughout all of high school. I thought I was the only one that did that sort of thing. So when I played this game, and May had a notebook exactly like mine, I was like, wow, okay, this is a game. This is a game. I literally bought it because it had a fun-looking fox on the cover, and instead it spoke to me for completely different reasons. The game was my therapy. This game got me through a significantly tough portion of my life, and for that, I will forever be grateful for it. The game was developed by Scott Benson and Alex Haluka. For whatever reason, Nintendo liked it, and they promoted it heavily on their YouTube channel, in their Nintendo Directs, and on the eShop. I'm positive that many of you out there who have played this game probably played it on Nintendo, because that's where the game was marketed and sold to. The game then received a vinyl record release, because it has some amazing music. The entire soundtrack was completely composed and recorded by Alex Haluka, who also wrote the game. So the soundtrack was made for the game and fits the game. It's one of the best video game soundtracks ever made, because, again, the guy who wrote it made it. So there were certain moments in the music and songs that fit the dialogue and what's happening, which makes Night in the Woods a really ethereal experience to play. It kind of gets all of your senses, the music, the tone, the characters, everything just cohesively comes together in a way that's hard to explain. So that soundtrack got a nice release, and they even made Night in the Woods action figures. Real Night in the Woods action figures. Oh, I wanted them so bad, but I was so broke at the time they had them. Well, I told myself, I'll just make some money, and when I get my first job out of high school, I'll buy those figures. Well, the figures came and went, because something really, really terrible happened in the Night in the Woods chronology. Well, sadly, this game is known for today as what happened next. A lady named, I believe, Zoe Quinn, accused the game's creator, writer, and composer, Alex Haluka, so the man who basically did everything but draw the game itself, Scott Benson, again, he's the artist that drew it all, she accused him of some pretty awful things that, if true, would have forever tainted the legacy of this game. Well, Alex Haluka, being a very religious man, did not take kindly to these allegations, and they greatly upset him. I believe he issued some sort of statement, that he was gonna fight these allegations, that he didn't believe in them, and then, 3 or 4 hours passed, and it was reported instantly that he had killed himself. That's it. He blew his brains out. He couldn't handle it. And it was pretty dark and pretty bad. And shortly after he died, it pretty much came out that the allegations were fake, that they were never real. They were just to kind of stir the pot, and try and get some money out of this guy for his game. And it sucks. It sucks that he, it was, at the end, it was his decision to do what he did, but it's awful. It's awful that his life ended so young, so tragically. I think he was only 35 when he died, and he would have been a name to watch, because this game, in the years since its death, this game is, it's gotten somewhat of a legendary status now. I think Night in the Woods is now kind of seen as a bit of a martyr to cancel culture, which, just because something happens doesn't mean it's true. The allegations were dark, yeah, they were terrible, but it sounds like they didn't happen. And to add more credit to what happened, once the story developed further, Night in the Woods disappeared. Video game websites stopped mentioning the game in anything. It was not part of top 10 lists, it was not part of recommendations, no reviews, nothing. And in the years since, the game has basically been scrubbed from the internet. There is speculation out there that because game websites and journalists reported breathlessly on the developing litigation that was going on between the accusers and the game's creator, that they feel that they are responsible for the man's wrongful death because, you know, they posted what was essentially defamation. They defamed him with these articles with untrue things that they kind of ran with. And I think there's truth to that. Night in the Woods doesn't exist online. They've completely scrubbed it. Even the death of Alex Haluka is never reported on. And if it is, the gaming websites, the big sites, they often just say that he tragically passed away of health complications. Well, dude didn't have cancer. He blew his brains out. That's, I guess you could say it's mental health complications, but they don't even say that. They just say health complications, a tragedy. That's pretty vague. And to add the final bit of credit to that theory is this physical release, which was not promoted on any site. No one even knew this was coming out. These just started shipping, and people were like, what is this? Night in the Woods Physical Edition? When did this come out? But here it is. Now, the Night in the Woods Physical Edition was supposed to hit brick and mortar stores. This game was supposed to hit retail as a regular release, which I was really looking forward to. Because, again, I thought I was the only one that played this game. So when I read that it was coming to Target and Walmart, I was excited because this was very early in the Nintendo Switch's lifespan, and pretty much any crap for the Nintendo Switch was selling. Like, there was some sort of, like, Bomberman game that was awful. People were buying it like crazy because it was something for the console. This is long before Smash Brothers and, you know, the later Mario and Zelda games. There wasn't a lot to buy for the system, so if Night in the Woods had hit retail like it was supposed to, the game probably would have sold gangbusters and been a legitimate hit. But because of what happened, the physical release was pulled from the shelves and disappeared for years. Into limited run games, they picked up the Night in the Woods physical release and gave it its proper release, which I have right here. So that whole long story about my life and Alex Haluka's life is why I had to buy this game, because this is one of those things where I don't know if this is ever going to be released again, or if we will ever even see Night in the Woods again. The rights to this game, the legal copyright to this game is, from what I understand, a ball of spaghetti, because Alex Haluka did not have a will, and he co-created the game with Scott Benson, so Scott Benson owns part of the game, and then the family of the deceased Haluka owns part of the game, and then the publisher owns part of it, so it is a mess through and through. And that's why we've never seen those Night in the Woods action figures re-released. The vinyl soundtrack was never re-released and goes for $1,000 online. The game is just not sold because no one knows who owns it. From what I understand, this Limited Run Games spent like 2 years trying to get this release together, figuring out all the legal drama about the game. And then when they finally got everything together and compiled this for a physical release, they kind of just quietly released it in January, with the stipulation that you would receive it a year from buying it out. And it received no commercials, nothing. Let me tell you, I'm a Night in the Woods diehard. I literally live for this game. This game saved my life. I didn't know that this physical release was out until the day before pre-orders closed. I didn't know about it. It wasn't being reported anywhere, which, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but put on those tinfoil hats for a second. Maybe there is something to the fact that gaming outlets won't cover this game. They have some sort of sense of guilt over the tragic death of its creator. So that's a half hour right there on Night in the Woods lore, the game itself, what it meant to me, and the bizarre mystery. And I think that kind of cements the game as a definitive cult hit. The game is already creepy as it is, okay? The game's already about monsters and spooky stuff and depression. It didn't need a real-life dark backstory to coincide with it, but now that it has that bizarre lore tangled through it, I think Night in the Woods is something that people will look back upon quite fondly. I think in 20 years or so, this will be seen as one of the greatest video games released during its time. It's definitely up there. For me, personally, it's my favorite video game of all time. And that's why I finally caved and bought a video game. A video where we actually opened Night in the Woods? Excuse me, I just thought I was gonna talk about my feelings for a half hour. Well, let's crack it open. The first thing that was included in the box is a thank you for being rad card. Well, gee, thanks. I mean, I had to wait over a year for this game, so it's the least they can do, right? And I like how the thing's glitching out here, because that reminds me of when May's computer gets the virus from downloading all that smut. That's a fun scene. We get a trading card of probably the most iconic imagery from the game, and that is May and Gregg on the bike. And another one of this promotional artwork of May. I always thought this artwork was a little weird, since May is very off-model, but this artwork was used a lot for the game's marketing, and when the game was going to be originally released at big box retail, this was going to be the cover art, which is interesting. It would have been interesting, but as it is, we get this cover art. This is the Nintendo Switch Standard Edition, and this is the PlayStation 4 Collector's Edition. I decided to go with PS4 for the Collector's Edition because it's the console I have currently in play, so it's the one I want to crack open and enjoy. The Switch one I got sealed as an extra because I wanted to have both versions. There was no Xbox version, only PS4 and Switch. And like I said, the Switch was where I originally played Night in the Woods, so to me, Night in the Woods will always be a Nintendo Switch game. Now, my Nintendo Switch actually broke, and I don't own a Switch at the moment, so I'm just going to keep this as a collectible, and this will be the version I crack open and enjoy. The box is huge, and like I said, it's so bright that the camera seems to have light and reflect off of it. It is the game's poster art, which was used for several pieces of merchandise. I believe when they sold merchandise for this game, at least, you could buy this as a big poster for your wall, and it's got all of the characters. So there's Angus, Gregg, May, Bee, and Jorm. So those are kind of like the main 5 in the game. And then around her, we have all of the extras. We have the douchebag, as he's called, from the college party, the bombshell that May flirts with. This is the protester at the rally who's kind of smashing things. This is the forest god. There's Malloy, the late night TV show host that May bonds with her dad with. There's the hobo that, you know, depending on, again, how you view the game, he either lived happily ever after or died. There is May's aunt, who is the cop. There's Selma's, the poet, probably one of my favorite characters. I really like her. And there's the janitor, huge character. I really don't want to spoil this. I want you to play the game yourself, but this is the most important character in the game, if you know what the janitor represents in the game's meaning. There's Lori, the rat girl who likes horror movies. I really love that character. I wish she got a figure. There's the pastor from the church, who May finds faith in. Mr. Benson, May's astrology teacher, who teaches her about the stars, and May's grandpa as a ghost. So, those are all the key characters that make up Possum Springs, the town May lives in. And hey, a possum to represent Possum Springs. So, beautiful box. A collectible in its own right. I'm going to carefully tear it open. Oh wait, hold on. We didn't look at the back. And it says, welcome to Possum Springs with May Sten. I just want to show you real quick. This is obviously an in-game screen grab of May, and I want to compare that with the promotional artwork that's off-model. See what I mean? How this artwork is not the final version of May? Like, look how different she looks. This is like beta May. And I think it's funny that they were going to use this for the original cover release. Either way, you know, May has those nightmare eyes. So let's crack it open. Yeah. Wow, there's a lot in here. Let's... Oh my goodness. Look at all this stuff. Okay, so there's quite a lot of stuff. Thank goodness, because in case you don't know, this cost me $100. Technically $150, because I bought the Switch version too. This game was $50, and the collector's edition, $100. That's a lot of money. But my love for Night in the Woods made me pay it. So, all of this right here is an acrylic playset of Possum Springs. I'm not kidding, you get the whole town in playset form. This is what drove me to finally make the purchase and actually buy this, because this was just way too cool for me to pass up. Look, you get the old pickaxe. Look how cool. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. I am, seriously, seeing all this, like, in physical form. This game just means so much to me, and I never thought I would have it in my hands like this. Oh, the donut wolf sign. Alright, so we're gonna put aside Night in the Woods acrylic land. I'm gonna build that in a separate shot. Let's see what else is in here. So we have these stickers. Yes, okay, so we have stickers that I will probably never use because they're too cool to use, of Night in the Woods with our main cast. Okay? Oh my goodness. Let's find the game. Okay, so here's the game. Wow, it is great to see that on a PS4 cover. Huh, interesting how, look, this one has limited run at the bottom and this one doesn't. I wonder if this one was closer to mainstream release. And what really tells me that this was intended for mainstream release is the back of the packaging. This is not packaging you would make for a special release game because, you know, only people who've played the game are going to end up buying this $100 edition of the game. But the back of the packaging here seems to try and sell this to a casual audience, like someone who has never seen Night in the Woods. Welcome to Possum Springs. College dropout Mae Borowski returns home to the crumbling former mining town of Possum Springs, seeking to resume her aimless former life and reconnect with friends she left behind. But things aren't the same. Home seems different now, and her friends have grown and changed. Leaves are falling, and the wind is growing older. Strange things are happening as the light fades. Explore the humble streets of your hometown. Feed the local rats with stolen food. Knife fight with your best friend. Yeah, okay, that is a pretty great description of the game, I won't lie. That seemingly sells anyone on the game. And I love how we have May with some train tracks with a minecart, because mining, Pennsylvania, big themes in the game. So pretty neat right there. So there it is. There is our copy. There's the spine. Beautiful. This is a pet peeve of mine, but video game spines don't feature the character on the side like animated movies do. Why don't they do that? Why don't video game spines? Like, why isn't there a little May right here so they'd look good on a bookshelf? I don't know. And they also put, like, the limited run number, which, I don't know. I'm not going to collect all the limited run games, so that's kind of annoying. But, hey, there it is. Night in the Woods can officially be added to my physical media collection. Here are all of our acrylic people. Look at that. A whole bag of Night in the Woods. Love it. Here is a commemorative coin for historic Possum Springs. You're not lost. You're here. 1789, Deep Hollow County. That is awesome. So I mentioned, you know, having Asperger's, and something in Night in the Woods that really speaks to me is how much it cares about local geography. Like, I'm the type of person that I always want to know, like, what county I'm in, what jurisdiction I'm in. I don't know, it's just something I've always liked. Like, where do I live? Where are the county lines? How is it voted, you know? Like, I could tell you for a fact, I have never been in a county that voted for Ross Perot. Someday that will change. Someday I will go to a Ross Perot county. But Night in the Woods takes place in Deep Hollow County, and Possum Springs is the county seat of Deep Hollow County. And the county is adjacent, at least fictionally adjacent, to Allegheny, where Pittsburgh is located. There is no Deep Hollow County adjacent to Allegheny County in real life. The closest thing you'd probably find is Butler County or Westmoreland County, which were huge inspirations for Night in the Woods. Kind of that greater Pittsburgh area. So this is like a real coin you would get from the Historical Society. I really like that. That makes me strangely very, very happy. So this is so cool. This is so freaking cool. So if you played the game, you know. But Night in the Woods, it's a deeply religious game. but it's made its own religion. So as not to infringe on real-life religions, the game has its own deities and characters based in the stars. So Night in the Woods has its own gods, and this is a star chart from the game that you can use to tell all the different gods. Now, there's a portion of the game where you view all these different star signs, and the characters talk about who they are and what role they play in founding the Night in the Woods universe and religion. And I think it's really, really neat. I really like how they did this. Night in the Woods, again, religious game, but anyone from any background can totally relate to it because it does not infringe on any existing religions. It has its own thing. There's so much world building in Night in the Woods. It's the type of game you could play, like I did, for over 100 hours, just discovering different little aspects of the world. And I love these characters, these, like, animal gods they came up with. They're very much based in old world mythology. You kind of get a little bit of, not just Greek myth, but also European myth. The legends of Charlemagne seem to go through a lot of these characters. You know, so that they aren't explicitly pagan, so to speak. Again, Alex Haruka was a very religious man, so he would not have included anything in the game that would be seen as satanic, other than the game's villain. If you know the game's villain, I mean, that's some pretty dark Satan imagery there. But as for the good gods of the game, very much rooted in all forms of religion throughout the world, both Western and Eastern religions. So, pretty cool. Really cool item. Wow, I could spend this all day trying to remember all of the game's gods and what they mean. I need to play through again. Very cool. Very neat. Ooh, what next? What next? So these look like postcards. Let's take a look at them. So here is the statue at May's college that she keeps having nightmares about. I've had similar things happen to me. Like, if there's a place you don't like, and it has some sort of, like, statue or symbol, it'll haunt you, man. I can tell you. There are things I don't like that haunt me in my dreams through specific images. So, I get you, May. I get you. Ooh, here is the cat god. Bit of a spoiler there if no one's played the game, but he appears near the end. There's the bear god. The squirrel god, who, this is a great design, but you don't even get to see this much in the game. They're so kind of obscured by fog and lighting. So I like that you can actually see them. There's the alligator god, and the swan. Oh, no, no black goat, no bad guy. That must have been, you know, Benson or the family's decision. I get it, you know. Night in the Woods being a religious game and all, you don't want a postcard of the big satanic monster at the end. Only the good gods get cards. Pretty cool. Okay, now we get down to the last few items here. So this, I can already tell you, is the Demon Tower soundtrack. So Demon Tower is an indie game that's like a dungeon crawler. It's an arcade game within Night in the Woods. So it's the game the fictional characters play. But it is included with Night in the Woods as a full video game. There are some people out there that prefer Demon Tower to Night in the Woods and insist this game is a masterpiece. Now, I've played a lot of Demon Tower because it's something to do in the game. I have never been good at it. I've always been so bad at this part of the game. And this is kind of the last thing in the game I haven't done. I have done everything in Night in the Woods. I've seen every line of dialogue, every possible ending, except completing Demon Tower with May. You know, beating the game within a game. It's just too difficult. But it does have a killer soundtrack. And I like that it got its own soundtrack and is not included with the Night in the Woods soundtrack, because it is very much its own thing. Part of the Night in the Woods universe, though not directly Night in the Woods. Okay, next is the soundtrack. I mentioned the vinyl soundtrack being upwards of $1,000, and it was just something I've always wanted to have. So having this on CD is amazing. Wow, 6 discs of music. This game has so much good music in it. It is honestly astounding. If Alex Haruka had lived he would have been one of the top video game composers. I'm sorry, but he's better than Toby Fox. Like, the Night in the Woods soundtrack trumps Undertale any day of the week. This soundtrack is awesome, and I'm gonna play and enjoy this CD. A quick look at the soundtrack brings up something very curious, and that is that Alec is not mentioned anywhere on the soundtrack, despite being not just the game's creator, but, I don't know, the composer. He literally made every song in here from scratch, and he is not credited anywhere. And I even, like, stopped filming and looked over the book, all around the CD case to see if I was missing something, but there are no credits for the soundtrack. So, if you don't know who made this, you wouldn't know unless you did your research. He's not credited anywhere. Something also interesting about the copyright for Night in the Woods is it says Night in the Woods 2022 Barn Beast, LLC. So that must be the new copyright holder of Night in the Woods since the situation happened. Now, I looked up Barn Beast, and it seems to be some sort of online store or branding owned by Scott Benson, the co-creator of Night in the Woods. So, I assume Scott Benson now owns Night in the Woods outright, independently. I was curious after the situation unfolded if it went in the hands of Alex's family or if maybe Finji, the publisher, got the rights, but it sounds like Scott Benson has it, which, I mean, that makes sense. He's the artist. He drew and animated the whole game, so he is very much the game's creator as much as Alec was, so yeah, he deserves it. But pretty interesting they didn't credit him. I thought for sure it would come with, like, a in memoriam statement, like, at least somewhere on here, you know, it would say, in loving memory of Alec. Just kind of adds to the very complicated and sad situation regarding this game. So, I think it's really unfortunate he's not credited. That is a shame. Look, Angus's eyeball is the disc holder. Interesting. So, I predict this soundtrack will never be released again, so this is probably your only way to get this. Really neat. And finally, the best item that I have waited for. A full replica of May's anxiety journal. Just like the one I had used in real life, and my own May replica. I tried to recreate this journal in my last month of high school, every day drawing a page, to replicate the one from the game. And here it is. Like, oh my god. This is so freaking cool. Wow. It's like I'm in the game. This is amazing. This is an amazing piece. Oh, the pizza scale. See, little things like this. This is another thing I used in my life. Like, before I played Night in the Woods, I had a pizza scale. I also had a chicken strip scale that I used that was like, you know, you rate the different chicken strips. My parents would be like, chicken strips is the same. What do you mean? I'm like, no. Those frozen chicken strips, those cheap chicken strips, uneatable chicken strips, and fancy chicken strips. You have to know the chicken scale. So when Gregory in the game starts talking about the pizza scale, I'm like, that's my life. This game is my life. I lived Night in the Woods, people. It is the story of me. I almost want to do a video comparing this to my real-life anxiety journal, right? Like, almost the same. I am garbage. Football. B's abusive dad. Now, a bit of context in the game. You know, May's aunt is a cop. So, you know, she tells her not to go on the high wire. Because May's a cat, she can actually, like an animal, tightrope across the power lines. Which they tell her not to do. So she kind of draws this as a joke. And that's how May, or you, the player, gets around town, is like a cat, you crawl up these electric power lines, going through all of the greater Pittsburgh area. It's a really, really beautiful game to explore. Never drink or go in public again. So, this here, oh man, this is actually a reference to the webcomic Homestuck, which, yeah, I got a bit of a history with. Pretty interesting that they chose to reference that. Again, my life kind of coming full circle in very, very strange ways. Wow. Charity Melody. It's Night Melody. How the hell do you draw a space dragon? Ah, Loy M. Horror movies, trains. Again with the hyperfixations. Everyone in this game is like obsessed with things, which I think is great. Bombshell. May's Love. And then we have the other Night in the Woods ship, Mayday, BB. Stuck together, don't suck together. May and B have such amazing chemistry together. They really are some of the best, like, sidekick duos ever. You know, they don't really like each other, but they do. And they're stuck together. It's like B says in the game. They're friends by proximity. They're only friends because they live next to each other and they're stuck with each other. But, you know, they would die for one another. You gotta love that. I always loved this side quest here where you go antiquing with the old man. Another thing in my life in Night in the Woods. Hello, B. Did you get my texts? Oh, that's that weirdo guy. Jen, Gregg's cousin. Angus is a psychic, but hat blocks. That's a reference to the original version of the game, where May was a superhero. My god, Angus is such a great character. They're all great characters. Everyone in this game is like a top-tier character. They could all have their own games. Then we have the end of the game where May writes down her spooky thoughts, and the ending where they're all together. Rip Casey. Yeah, that is an astounding item right there. I can't believe I have May's composition book with the coffee ring even on it. Wow, these two right here. I'd pay $100 for just those two. If you're a diehard of this game, yeah, you probably should have bought this, and now you missed out, but oh well. Blame video game journalism companies for being suspiciously silent on Night in the Woods. Because even I, didn't know this was releasing. Now let's go make some acrylic figures. What do you say? Hello, I just spent the last 15 minutes building the acrylic Possum Springs, and honestly bawling myself to tears as I put it together. Seeing Possum Springs form in front of me after the journey I have had with this game being in my life, it's hard to explain. They're more than just acrylic figures. To me, you know, these were my friends at a time I really needed them. Night in the Woods was my friend, and this game helped me. So, I proudly add this to my collection. Of course, I recommend the limited run release of Night in the Woods, but, I mean, how can I not? I kind of have to at this point. Just to have something Night in the Woods and be able to put it into my collection means a ton to me. Something I also thought was fun is the ability to build Possum Springs. The town of Possum Springs is a character in itself, and having something like this perfectly encapsulates what makes this game so special. Early in the channel, you may remember the Critter Town challenges where I would build large animal cities, and I just want to segue here for a moment to my Zootopia display, which is kind of the, you know, what my Critter Town became. It was directly inspired by Night in the Woods. I wanted to do this because I wanted to build a town that looked like Night in the Woods. Look, I even bought a Pennsylvania Mr. Rogers trolley to complete its transformation into my own version of Possum Springs. So, it's weird to come full circle, you know, buying these critters in this town kind of as a substitute for Night in the Woods toys, to finally having something Night in the Woods to display. And best of all, I can now say I absolutely own Night in the Woods, not just in digital copy, but physically as well, if it'll slide in there. There we go. Bonus, and you thought it was over. I didn't even open the game. So after I was done filming, I actually opened it. I expected the inside to honestly be pretty blank, or at worst case scenario, a digital code. Thankfully, it's a disc. But it's pretty nice. It's got this awesome outer sleeve that has all of May's anxiety journal. And I guess you could flip this and make this the cover if you wanted to do that sort of thing. But it even includes a booklet, like a real old-fashioned video game booklet that tells you about the game's lore for newcomers. So that is honestly surprising and adds even more credence to my theory that this was intended to be shipped to mainstream retailers. I mean, we originally knew it was going to be shipped to retailers, but specifically this version and a lot of this ephemera, I think was supposed to go to like a Target or Walmart, because it seems to be something engineered towards a general audience. But yeah, a really nice physical release. You love to see it. Support physical media. If you support physical media, you're a total trash mammal.